I'm very pleased to welcome you to the webinar and thank you very much for joining us today. The webinar is co-hosted by the Ministry of Science and ICT, Health and Welfare, Education, Foreign Affairs, and sponsored by KOICA and National Research Foundation of Korea. I'm Director General Hee Kwon-jung, International Cooperation Bureau of Ministry of Science and ICT. The first COVID-19 patient was confirmed at the end of 2019, and WHO declared pandemic in March and warned a worldwide epidemic. Currently, the cumulative number of confirmed cases has exceeded 10 million worldwide, and the cumulative deaths reached 500,000, giving us tremendous hardship. The COVID-19 had a major impact not only on the national health system, but also on the overall social economy. Combination of effective government policies, public voluntary participation, and healthcare professionals' dedication, we were able to contain COVID-19 confirmed cases quite successfully in Korea. During today's webinar, we will address how Korea's science and ICT and education policies and practices were mobilized to wisely respond to the current crisis while making efforts for future development. I hope our experiences can be useful in your efforts to seek countermeasures. Today's webinar will begin with the opening remarks by Vice Minister Byung-sun of Science and ICT, to be followed by the first presentation on response to COVID-19 with Science and ICT by Director Chung Won-lee, International Cooperation and Coordination Divisions, Science and ICT Ministry. Next speaker was recommended by Ministry of Health and Welfare. Director David Lee, CGen Institute of Future Technology, will present SARS-CoV-2 assay development using ICT. Next, CEO Wang-sik Ryu from Institute Pasteur Korea will give you update on antiviral therapy against COVID-19. Lastly, Ministry of Education Service Division, Korea Education and Research Information Service, Director Jin-soo Kim will talk about online education. Please submit your questions on the message board. We will gather them and address during the Q&A session. Simultaneous interpretation will be provided into English, French, Spanish. Please select the language of your preference. For those who are unable to watch due to the time differences, we will air the recorded video at 11 p.m. tonight Korean time. Now, Vice Minister Byung-sun Chung of Ministry of Science and ICT will deliver opening remarks. Vice Minister.
Good afternoon. I am Vice Minister Byung-sun Chung of Science and ICT. Distinguished healthcare workers and experts, and those watching this webinar around the world, it is very meaningful to meet you at a webinar under the theme of Science, ICT, at a time when unique and close cooperation in the world is more needed than ever before. The world is now facing the crisis that we've never seen before due to the COVID-19 outbreak. The crisis reminds us that the world is a community of common fate that is interconnected through solidarity and exchange. We have been protecting Korean and foreigners without any discrimination. Healthcare workers and experts have been carrying out their responsibilities, and citizens have been actively supporting them. We take advantage of our prowess in science, technology, and ICTs to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak promptly and properly, while ensuring international exchange and movement and stopping further spread of the virus. We supported the development of a diagnostic kit that utilizes AI automated system so as to enable 7-minute screening. Drive-through and walk-through stations have been using the kit for a safer and quicker specimen collection. And thanks to this kit, as of 20th June, about 1.15 million people were tested. ICTs have been utilized to develop a self-diagnosis app for the management of confirmed cases and contacts. ICTs are also used for remote work and online classes, thus minimizing any inconvenience caused by social distancing and distancing in daily life. Thanks to our all-out efforts, the COVID-19 curve has been flattened in Korea, but it is not the time to kick back and relax. The virus is spread in the Greater Seoul area due to social gatherings. We need to stay vigilant and keep responding to the outbreak. Until a vaccine or treatment is developed, it will be hard to return to normal life. Countries in the world have been committed to the development of a vaccine and treatment. The Korean government joined forces with industries, research institutes, and hospitals for drug repositioning and development of candidate substances for vaccines. Furthermore, we are committed to sharing research results and data with the international community and pushing forward overseas clinical trials. To protect the global community and overcome the crisis, we all together keep working hard and stay alert. Until when we are able to exchange directly with the world, we will share our experience and information of healthcare workers with the world through video conferences and webinars. Today, we are going to share how we have responded to the outbreak utilizing science, technology, and ICTs and education. I hope you will find today's webinar helpful and informative. Practicing social distancing, we have emphasized that we should keep distance physically, not emotionally. Of course, we are far apart, but as a community of common destiny, I hope we will be able to overcome the crisis through cooperation and solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister Pyong Sun-jung. Let me introduce the first speaker, Director Chung-won Lee from International Cooperation Coordination Division, Ministry of Science and ICT, will present response to COVID-19 with science and ICT.
Good afternoon. I'm Director Lee Chung-won of International Cooperation Coordination Division of the Ministry of Science and ICT. Let me share how Korea has responded to the COVID-19 outbreak with science, technology, and ICTs. Korea has responded to the outbreak with a unique prevention and control system based on test, trace, and treat, so-called 3Ts, and implemented a variety of measures, including social distancing. Today, I'm going to elaborate how we have utilized science, technology, and ICTs for 3Ts and social distancing. Over the last 4 months, we have been facing various challenges caused by the outbreak. The number of confirmed cases in Korea hit the highest on 29th February. But with the government's active and transparent measures and citizens' voluntary participation, the number of daily confirmed cases have rapidly decreased. Nonetheless, new confirmed cases due to social gatherings have been reported in the Greater Seoul area. Next, I'm going to touch on tests. From the early stage of spread, we carried out diagnostic tests widely in a short period of time. To minimize damage caused by an infectious virus, large-scale diagnostic tests are essential. The government has supported businesses by giving R&D assistance and allowing emergency approval so that businesses can develop test kits promptly and launch them in the market. Currently, 7 companies have won emergency approval for corona test kits. CGen and some companies shortened the development time by utilizing high-performance computing and AI algorithms. Korea's AI-based medical image analysis companies like Vino and Lunit have fed AI large-scale chest X-ray images and developed a small-sized device that can detect abnormalities of corona patients' lungs in just a few seconds. This device can be connected to movable X-ray equipment in a screening station or on an ambulance to send patients' lung images to healthcare workers. In particular, the device will be installed in specific areas in a hospital or where medical staff can be dispatched so that patients can measure their biometrics on their own following medical staff's instruction. And the government has supported the development of a biosignal monitoring system that enables medical staff to monitor patients' self-measured biosignal data. The system was installed in Mungyong Daily Treatment Center for tests. And at the same time, we are committed to preventing the systemic collapse of the medical system that might be caused due to the infection of healthcare workers. Next is trace. The Korean government developed a self-quarantine app for an effective monitoring of those who are in self-quarantine. This app has three major functions. First, self-diagnosis. The app helps a user to diagnose and submit the result to a public officer in charge. Second, GPS-based location tracing that prevents possible violation of self-quarantine orders. Third, providing essential information including self-quarantine rules and contact information of public officers in charge. This app is very efficient in monitoring those who are in self-isolation and keeping them stay where designated. Information submitted via app will not be shared with others for privacy protection. Tracing is very important for epidemiological investigation. In February, the number of confirmed cases surged, which contributed to an increased workload of epidemiological investigators. For a quick and accurate large-scale data analysis, the Korean government developed an assistance system for epidemiological investigation. KCDC has been operating the system with close cooperation with the police, mobile carriers, and credit card companies. The system analyzes GPS and credit card transaction data in real time to identify confirmed patients' whereabouts and travel history. To avoid a possible second wave, we will synchronize the system to digital customer registers for high-risk facilities and hospital visit history. The advanced system will enable a prompt and precise epidemiological investigation for every building. Since there has been growing concern regarding privacy, we will operate the system following strict rules to protect private information. And depending on duty, a small number of public officers will be given access to the system. And all users' activities in the system will be strictly monitored to prevent the misuse of personal information. As soon as the outbreak ends, all data stored in the system will be totally deleted. Let me touch on treatment. The Korean government has made a lot of efforts to develop treatment and vaccines by providing R&D support. The Institute for Basic Science and RNA Research Institute completed analysis of RNA transcriptome produced in host cells by SARS-CoV-2, which is the main cause of COVID-19. This research is expected to produce a high-resolution gene map of SARS-CoV-2, thus contributing to the understanding of SARS-CoV-2 replication and the development of treatment. This research was published in Cell in the early April. To put an end to the outbreak, treatments and vaccines are essential. First, drug repositioning is to investigate new uses of existing drugs that are effective for the coronavirus. Since the existing drugs' safety is already proved, clinical trial processes can proceed quickly and the drugs could be used for patients' treatment. And the government set up a drug repositioning consultative body joined by industry, academia, and Institute for Drug Repurposing Research. Institute Pasteur Korea identified 20 drugs effective against COVID-19 among 2,500 drugs. And the Institute is now conducting a clinical trial with cyclesonide that is effective and influences the lungs directly. Korea Research Institute of Chemical Technology is pushing forward a clinical trial of nafamostat that is found effective after carrying out cell experiments of 1,500 candidate drugs. The Ministry of Science and ICT, Health and Welfare, KCDC, and Food and Drug Safety joined the Pan-Government Supportive Center to facilitate the development of treatment and vaccine with the provision of facilities for animal testing and biosafety labs. The government has been sharing research results and data to respond to the outbreak through international coordination. Through CORE, which is a national open access platform where open access papers are free, and DataOn, which is a national research data platform that enables you register, store, share, and utilize research data. We have shared COVID-19 related research results and data. At the same time, we are committed to providing support for infrastructure to respond to the outbreak by producing anti-fog goggles utilizing nanostructure and technology. Next, I'm going to talk about social distancing.
전파력이 높은 코로나의 방역을 위해서는 사회적 거리두기가 매우 중요합니다.
Social distancing is very important for prevention and control of the highly contagious coronavirus. The Ministry of Science and ICT predicted how the virus would spread based on scientific information for a decision-making process. First, we set up a network joined by experts who carried out virus spread prediction research and helped them to utilize communications data-based information such as the number of floating population, roaming, and confirmed cases statistics for free for public purpose research. And Korea Institute of Science and Technology utilized such information and expected that the number of newly confirmed cases in Korea would be skyrocketed to 4,000 if strict and wide social distancing would not be practiced. KIS's expectation and research showed that the Korea's prevention and control measures are well carried out and put an emphasis on the importance of social distancing. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, school classes were suspended and students and teachers are facing unprecedented challenges and difficulties. And to respond to the outbreak, we pushed forward online class. In Korea, there are about 8.1 million students in elementary, middle, and high schools. To support online class, the central government, local governments, communication companies, and ICT companies have worked together. The government, Samsung Electronics, and LG Electronics cooperated to provide 36,000 tablet PCs to students from low-income families for free. And also, 3 major mobile carriers applied zero-rating policy until the end of May so that anyone could access EBS with free of data charges. The government opened a website providing information about remote working solution companies. And in the public sector, GVPN and video conferencing have been applied for remote work. The Korean government has inspected broadcasting and communication service providers' emergency response system since the demand for digital services, including remote learning and work, has surged. Let me talk about masks. There had been growing concern regarding the shortage of masks, which led the Korean government allowing public platforms like pharmacies and post offices to sell publicly distributed masks. To enhance the efficiency of distribution and minimize inconvenience and disorder, the government opened real-time data on the sales of publicly distributed masks. The government has revealed data on the masks sold in public retail stores through public and private partnership. Cloud service providers have provided cloud and map resources that app developers utilize to develop a system and provide information to citizens. So far, I have covered Korea's response to the outbreak using science, technology, and ICTs. But each country in the world has different level of infrastructure, history, and social environment. Thus, it would be hard for other countries to apply our experience directly. We hope our experience and response to the outbreak using science, technology, and ICTs could help other countries respond to the COVID-19 outbreak. Korea will share its policies and experience with the international community on a regular basis so as to work together with others to combat against the coronavirus. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Director Chung-eun Lee, for your presentation. Director Lee, if you have any comment or question, please write them down at the message board. Next speaker is from Seagen, a biotech company specializing in molecular diagnostic, which played critical role in maximizing mass testing capabilities in Korea. Presentation title of Director Lee of Seagen Institute of Future Technology SARS-CoV-2 Assay Development Using ICT. Please. Hello, I'm Director Tae-Hoon Lee of Institute of Future Technologies, CGen. Today, I'm going to talk about SARS-CoV-2 assay development using ICT technology in Korea. First, I'm going to talk about SARS coronavirus 2 viral spillover. Second, gene targets for real-time PCR molecular method for clinical diagnostics. Third, test kits development carried out in Korea. Lastly, assay development using ICT in CGen. There are four main subgroups of coronaviruses known as alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. Among the viruses, gamma and delta coronaviruses have their own origin in birds, while alpha and beta coronaviruses have their origin in bats and rodents. Among those viruses, four common human coronaviruses such as OC43, HKU1, 229E, and L63 are introduced into human population long time ago and are responsible for common colds. Recently, beta coronaviruses found in bats have been involved in the transmissions to human, causing the outbreak of COVID-19. Host range is a viral property, but viruses sometimes can cross the species barrier and infect other hosts. The spread of new coronaviruses from bats to human became problem. Bats have over 1,300 species, which is 1/4 of mammals carry out communal living and move long distance due to effective antiviral immune system and increased constitutive expressions of interferon. Bats carry many viruses in their bodies, often acting as the main culprit to virus spillover. In 2002, the SARS virus spread from bats to civet cats and then to humans, causing 8,000 cases of infections and 800 deaths. In 2012, MERS coronaviruses was transmitted from bats through camels to humans, resulting in 1,599 cases of infections and 574 deaths. In 2019, it passed from bats through pangolins to humans, causing heavy casualties. These are all beta coronaviruses. I like this diagram, but I'm sorry I cannot find the original reference of this diagram. The beta coronaviruses are divided into A, B, C, D, 4 lineages. HKU1 and OCD43, which causes seasonal cold, belong to lineage A, and MERS belongs to lineage C. Both SARS coronaviruses in 2002 and SARS coronaviruses 2 in 2019, they belong to lineage B. Lineage B is SARS-related beta coronaviruses, so we call it as SARS-CoV-virus. When SARS-CoV-2 was first detected, there's only one genetic information known, so SARS-CoV screening PCR was recommended. Then, SARS-CoV-2 screening PCR for confirmation was recommended by WHO. Looking back the history of SARS-CoV-2 outbreak, on December 31, 2019, WHO China office informed the case of pneumonia of unknown cause from Wuhan City, China. On January 7, the Chinese authorities announced novel coronavirus as the cause of pneumonia. On January 10, a viral genome sequence was released and was named as Wuhan-Hu-1. On January 10th, after Wuhan-Hu-1 genome sequence information was released, real-time PC genetic test method was established on January 13 from Charité Hospital in Berlin, Germany, which was recommended by WHO on January 15th. However, since there is only one sequence known in connection with the SARS coronavirus, the primer and probe sequence was recommended as the first line screening that can detect SARS-CoV virus, to be followed by confirmatory assay testing using probe sequence for RDRP gene. This data was recently released by Seturaman showing estimated variation over time in diagnostic tests to detect SARS-CoV-2 infection relative to symptom onset. The most sensitive test for 1 week before symptoms onset and 2 weeks after onset is the PCR test. This has been identified in other existing respiratory viruses. So WHO and countries recommended the real-time PCR method as SARS coronavirus kits screening confirmation test. Let's look at the history of SARS-CoV-2 test kit development in the Republic of Korea. On January 27, the last day of the Lunar New Year holiday, the Korea Center for Disease Control and Prevention called the molecular diagnostic manufacturers to highlight the need for urgent development of SARS coronavirus test kit. From the next day, manufacturers started product development. 1 week later, Seagen completed the development and documentation for EUA or Emergency Use Authorization and submitted to KCDC, Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The KCDC asked MSDS or Ministry of Food and Drug Safety for clinical evaluation, which started from February 7th. 1 week later, on February 12th, MFDS announced EUA for CoV-2 test kit. A week later, Seagen began productions and start the first sale of test kit on February 19th. This was the time when Korea's 31st coronavirus patient considered as super spreader drastically increased the testing number. Right now, the test kit development process is very complex and manually carried out. However, the development process based on ICT quickened the process. Technologies such as AI-based oligonucleotide sequence collections, coverage, specificity, interference enable automatic analysis of 788 parameters while provide all the information needed in developing high multiplex real-time PCR assay, multi-TOM sequence, enzymes and buffer detection protocol, results analyzing guide and trail production very quickly. Development of diagnostic kit using ICT technology are divided into SG bioinformation and fully automated design. SG bioinformation is divided into 3 subgroups: SG BioDB, in silico product design, and analysis of design system. These are 3 subgroups. BioDB contains stored information such as reference information, pathogen information, target genes, nucleic acid sequence, and oligo information within the DB according to its structure. In silico product design refers to the entire fully automated design software, and segmented analysis means segmented 9 programs that analyze already designed products. The experiment automation refers to a barcode-based material management system and entire automations of the experiment. Each step of this experiment is pre-coded, and the result analysis is automated according to the protocol. The result is generated automatically using a document automation software. For such development automation, we have standardized and product development process and automated using software. This product development process is called as Seagen Digitalized Development System or SGDDS. SGDDS workflow includes ICT-based product design, automated test using automated equipment, and automated result analysis and automated documentation. SGDDS multiplex product development process standardizes and computes sensitivity, co-infection testing, concentration optimization, clinical specificity testing, clinical sensitivity testing, and then validation testing based on the oligo design. The multiplex oligo selection enabled us to develop the test kit in a week. Seagen's test kit has received Korean and US FDA emergency use authorization. The data is analyzed and report is generated automatically, while the data can be transmitted to the hospital as it is linked to its Laboratory Information System or LIS. As of June 16th at GC8 website, 46,000 genomic information has been posted. Since the end of December till now, for 6 months, there have been many genetic mutations. With so much mutation, there is a concern that the existing designed and verified products may have performance problems or issues. To monitor this risk, Seagen confirms every week whether product oligo sequence has missed the mutant SARS-CoV virus 2. No other problems have been detected yet. In the case of the engine, a mismatch was found at the end of the 5 primes of the forward prime, but mutant experiment confirmed that there is no effect on the sensitivity. I have talked about how Seagen quickly developed COVID-19 diagnostic kit based on ICT technology. We are working hard to systemize and generalize Seagen's SGDDS technology so that not only Seagen but also researchers around the world can utilize Seagen's technology. We will do our best to make that happen as soon as possible. Thank you. Thank you, Director Lee, for your presentation on the development of diagnostic test kit in Korea. Next presentation will be given by CEO Wang-Sik Ryu of Institute Pasteur Korea on antiviral therapy against COVID-19.
Good afternoon. I'm CEO Ryu Wang-Sik of Institute Pasteur Korea. The COVID-19 outbreak is causing huge damage to the world, and what makes it worse is that we have no idea when the outbreak will end. Before I'm going to talk about the development of treatment, I will briefly cover when the outbreak will end. Since the outbreak has continued for more than half a year, we get used to terms like social distancing or untact. Human history divides into BC and AD. And currently people say the COVID-19 outbreak affects the modern society so hugely that the world before and after the COVID-19 outbreak cannot be the same. So I dare say BC and AD now stand for before Corona and after COVID-19. Coronavirus is highly contagious. Since there are no vaccines or treatments at all, prevention and control are the best way to respond to the outbreak. It's been said that to put an end to the outbreak, herd immunity should be at least 70%. It means that more than 70% of people should have antibodies. But the number of confirmed cases in the world is about 9 million, which is 0.1% of the global population. In the US and Spain, where the number of confirmed cases is high, 5% of patients have antibody, and the figure in Sweden is 7%. The number of asymptomatic patients is 10 times larger than confirmed patients. Therefore, 1 to 2% of the global population has antibodies. Reaching 70% of herd immunity from just 1 to 2% is really difficult. Even if you take the United States and Spain for calculation, where the number of confirmed cases is high, it would take 7 years for the herd immunity of 70%. In other words, if a vaccine or treatment is not developed, much more sacrifices are inevitable. It usually takes 5 to 10 years for the development of treatment. To respond to a new virus disease outbreak properly, a vaccine or treatment should be developed within a year. Therefore, drug repositioning is the only strategy to find treatment for a new virus. Drug repositioning is a way to identify drugs among the existing approved drugs that are effective for a new indication. Viagra is a good example. Viagra was originally being developed as a medication to treat angina, but its side effects were effective for other indications, so it was developed for a new indication. The development process of a new drug consists of 5 stages, including discovery, preclinical phase for animal tests, phase 1, 2, and 3 for human. Each phase takes about 2 to 3 years, therefore the whole process takes about 10 years. And because of side effects and toxicity of a drug, the development of a new drug could be stopped. However, drug repositioning is conducted for the existing approved drugs, which means toxicity tests are completed and approved. Therefore, if we are able to identify a drug that is highly effective for COVID-19 among existing drugs, test it and prove it safe, then the drug will be approved by the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety for use. We can skip the preclinical study and phase 1 that are for toxicity tests and conduct a phase 2 and 3 study, thus being able to shorten the period for new drug development. We, Institute Pasteur Korea, has a well-established phenomic screening system. It is a drug assessment system based on cell images. First, researchers set up a cell-based assay regarding a disease and put the assay on a palm-sized well plate and medicate the plate with the drug and get cell images through microscope. An image analysis program analyzing cell images is utilized to investigate the efficacy of the drug, and the whole process is done by robot. Specifically, we screened about 3,000 drugs, including 1,500 FDA-approved drugs, and we identified about 20 effective drugs and chose 4 drugs for clinical trials, considering efficacy and characteristics of them. First, cyclesonide is an inhaled corticosteroid for asthma treatment. Indeed, steroidal drugs are anti-inflammatories, but we identified antiviral activities of them. Currently, we are conducting a phase 2 clinical trial of cyclesonide for patients with mild symptoms in Korea. The second drug is niclosamide, which is to treat tapeworm infection. But niclosamide was recently reported that it had antiviral activity, though autophagy. However, it is a medication for tapeworm infection treatment, therefore it is not absorbed into the body. It is impossible to use oral administration. That's why we are working with pharmaceutical companies to change formulation to parenteral injection. The third drug is nafamostat, which was approved as an anticoagulant in Korea and Japan. This drug blocks the entry of the virus into cells. It has 100 times greater antiviral activity at a cell level than remdesivir. Furthermore, nafamostat is a coagulant that can stop coagulation accompanied with pneumonia caused by the coronavirus. Currently, a phase 2 clinical trial of nafamostat for patients with severe symptoms is underway in Japan and Korea. The next drug is camostat. It has been used as a medication to treat pancreatitis. Its mode of action is same with that of nafamostat. It blocks viruses' entry into cells. The level of efficacy of it is lower than that of nafamostat, but it is an orally administered drug, which is appropriate for patients with mild symptoms. From now on, I'd like to touch on antiviral or anti-inflammatory activities of the drugs identified. First, the virus binds to a receptor and gets into the pulmonary cell. Then, polyproteins are synthesized with RNA genomes released to cell lines as template. The polyproteins are processed to individual proteins and interact with RNA genome, which leads to RNA replication. Meanwhile, immune responses to the virus that enters into the pulmonary alveolus occur, which leads to the expression of IL-6 cytokine, so-called cytokine storm that worsens the pathology. As a result, blood vessels are affected, thus blood clots are produced and pathology is worsened. And let's look at the efficacy of drugs we identified with drug repositioning. Nafamostat and camostat block the virus's entry into cells. In particular, nafamostat serves not only as an antiviral medication, but an anticoagulation medication too. Next, cyclesonide. Cyclesonide has anti-inflammatory effect and RNA replication inhibition effect, and niclosamide blocks the formation of virus particles through autophagy. Other than these 4 drugs we identified, let me introduce 3 more drugs that we should pay attention to. Remdesivir, that impedes RNA genome replication, was recently approved for emergency use. It is the only approved treatment for the coronavirus. And dexamethasone, reported in the UK, is a steroidal anti-inflammatory drug and draws attention as well. And a clinical trial of baricitinib, which is a JAK inhibitor and anti-inflammatory drug, is underway. Tocilizumab, which is an approved biosimilar for the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis, is an antibody drug of IL-6. It is known to impede IL-6, that is the main cause of cytokine storm. Let me briefly summarize the current status of drug development for the treatment of the coronavirus. Currently, remdesivir is the only approved drug for the treatment of the coronavirus. According to NIH's clinical trial results, remdesivir shortened the time to recovery of patients with severe symptoms about 4 days. Even though the drug was approved by FDA, it is not a game changer. In contrast, the UK media said that dexamethasone reduced the mortality rate of patients with severe symptoms by 30%. It's been known that this Oxford carried out clinical trial of dexamethasone recruited more than 2,000 subjects, thus attracting attention from the academia as a trustworthy clinical trial. If the results of the clinical trial are published, then it will be the first drug approved to reduce the mortality rate of coronavirus. But there are concerns regarding its side effects as a steroidal drug, therefore the use of it would be limited. Other than these drugs, a number of drugs are now under clinical trials, particularly clinical trials that use remdesivir, which was approved for emergency use as an antiviral, and tocilizumab or baricitinib as a concomitant treatment have attracted attention. The number of confirmed cases is more than 9 million, and the coronavirus already cost so many people's lives, and is the worst and largest pandemic ever in the 21st century. Regarding how long the outbreak will continue, people say that the virus would spread until the herd immunity reaches 70%. Putting an end to the outbreak through the 70% of herd immunity will take years from now. We have a long way to go. Reaching to 70% of herd immunity without any treatments or vaccines will take time and more sacrifices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CEO Ryu, for updating the current status of COVID treatment development, not only in Korea, but also globally. We hope that the cure will be developed, which will end the current crisis, and we can all go back to normal. Next, Director Jin-Soo Kim of KERIS, Korea Education and Research Information Service, will talk about responding to COVID-19 online classes in Korea. Hello, I'm Jin-Soo Kim, Director of Education Service Divisions, Jin-Soo Kim, Korea Education Research Information Service under the umbrella of the Korean Ministry of Education. I'm responsible for supporting the online school policy and remote class services in Korea. I hope sharing Korea's experience can be useful to the webinar viewers. First, I'll talk about the Korean government's endeavor to overcome COVID-19, and then online school opening stages. And finally, I'll talk about the preparation for online and physical school opening and their implication. Under the three principles of openness, transparency, and democracy, the Korean government has responded to COVID-19. With a high level of civic responsibilities and a sense of solidarity, the whole nation responded effectively. As intensified social distancing was relaxed, restricted social distancing continued from April 20th to May 5th. In order to prioritize student safety and prevent the COVID-19 in preemptive manner, the Ministry of Education postponed the start of preschool, primary, middle, high school, and special schools for 3 times. To ensure the health and safety of students and to protect their rights to education, on April 9th, Thursday, online classes were implemented in stages, so final year students of middle and high schools started online classes. Through online schooling, we have systematically prepared in various ways so that 5.4 million students from all over the country can participate in remote classes. In terms of the infrastructure expansion, public online learning platforms such as KERIS were provided by public sector. A public educational broadcasting called EBS added more channels to offer online classes so that all students can access internet and join the online classes. These 2 services were all based on cloud services, so it was possible to expand system within a very short period of time. Since the existing learning contents was not enough to be used in regular classes, CARIS and EBS, together with the private sector, continuously secured learning contents. As each house has a different level of digital access, there could be a digital device, so any students, including from low-income families, can rent digital device freely if they apply, and internet subscription fees were subsidized. Even if such service and content-based environment is provided, classes are eventually conducted by teachers. So, 495 schools were designated as pilot schools for online classes to share best practices. 181 teachers volunteer group was formed to support peer teachers who may encounter difficulties in online teaching. An online community where teachers from all schools nationwide could join at once to discuss educational policies. Come to think of it, it seems like all of these has been arranged in almost a month. Above all, it was necessary to give support for disadvantaged students to receive customized support. For students with disabilities, depending on their types of disabilities, combination of online education and one home visit were offered. For students from multicultural families, central government, provincial, and local multicultural education support center cooperated to provide support and specially designed contents. In cooperation with the Ministry of Education and the provincial education offices, free digital devices and subsidized internet subscription fees were available for low-income family students. In the nationwide introductions of online classes, there was an active public and private partnership, including the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Science and ICT, and businesses and IT industries to give free internet access, while pay-to-access private contents are uploaded to allow students to access free of charge. Currently, the participation in the online classes is 98.8% out of 5.4 million students of elementary, middle, and high schools. Online classes are provided in diverse ways. Real-time interactive classes allow immediate communication and discussions between teacher and students by using video conferencing, while content-oriented classes allow students to watch video-recorded lecture, and then teachers monitor how much students have learned based on which teacher provides feedback. Lastly, task-oriented classes means teacher present task to students based on the achievement standard of each student, and teachers give feedback after task is completed. I'll now show you a video clip demonstrating how online classes are given by a teacher named Mr. Min Chul-shin at Jinwol Elementary School in Daegu City. The basic theme of this online class is Beautiful World Without Barriers. The aim is to teach students understand disabilities so as to build a world without barriers. The format is a real-time interactive online class where teachers and students communicate in real time and answer questions asked by teacher and solve problems together. It is a very short video and it is in Korean, but just take a look at the overall flow so that you can understand what is going on. A beautiful world without barriers. A beautiful world without barriers. Students' names and student faces are now shown. Beautiful world without barriers. Beautiful world. What are some places where it is difficult to go for people with disabilities? Answers: subways, bus stations, swimming pool, public bath, restaurants, amusement park, airplanes, airport. If I have physical disabilities, how would I feel if I visit these places? Answer: at a loss, sad, angry, upset, depressed, my heart aches, difficult, frustrated. Shall we turn these places around us with our own ideas? Students are writing down their answers. So the left column shows the names, and then students write down their answers, how they would like to change the places. How can we change places around us are difficult for people with a disability to access? Students are writing their answers, name of the students, and they are writing their solutions. How can we transform our places for easier access for people with disabilities? Waiting for players. Wrong answers give 0 points. So teacher asks a question. What is the name of the movement or campaign to build a barrier-free world, removing barriers for people with disabilities? 4 answers. Wall-free, Verona-free, barrier-free, freedom. And then time counts. 6, 5, 4. Everyone has voted. Red colored bar shows right answer, which is barrier-free. Leaderboard, name of the students in the order of their scores. So Kim Yumi got the highest score of 959. Waiting for answers. What are some places where people with physical disabilities have difficulties to go around? Schools where elevator for people with a disability broke down, or high threshold, schools with wheelchairs, etc. What is the wrong attitude to take part in this barrier-free movement? Please write down what was your impressions or feeling about today's class. I was able to understand the feeling of people with disabilities. I found out that there are a lot of places that they cannot go. I feel sorry for them. Although we are separated, please feel same about learning. Let's cheer up fighting. After undergoing this process, in early May, as a social distancing was relaxed to distancing in daily life, we began discussing and preparing for physical school opening, where strict rules are applied for children's safety. Through continuous monitoring the situation, the school opened in stages. On May 20th, high school students were the first to return to school. Currently, taking into account of local situation, online and offline classes are conducted in parallel. Offices of education make autonomous decisions based on their own judgment. This photo shows Korean students attending physical schools. Thorough quarantine measures are enforced in schools. Inside the classroom, physical distances is kept strictly from one another. No hugging, no touching is allowed. During online classes, teachers missed students and students missed their friends and wanted to meet them. There was a strong desire. That is why, even in the midst of difficulties, there are various types of online and offline schools are being carried out. Let me say a few words about Korea's online classes from educational point of view. This is the result of the teacher survey conducted by the Ministry of Education in Korea at the end of April. Even in an unfamiliar online situation, Korean teachers not only voluntarily used the existing digital contents but also developed and utilized their own contents. In the process, teachers voluntarily participated in the teachers' online community to actively share ideas and know-how, similar to the use of the private or publicly made learning contents. 33% of materials used in classes were developed by teachers themselves. Even in the case of remote learning, the effectiveness and efficiency of online classes were decided not by ICT or technology, but teachers' passion, commitment, and voluntary participation. Those of you attending this webinar might think that Korea successfully carried out online classes thanks to the state-of-the-art ICT, but in the end, teachers' voluntary participation is critical in ensuring the success of online classes based on Korea's experiences. That is what we learned as a lesson. As we experienced online classes, COVID-19 crisis gave an opportunity to teachers in Korea to realize the educational potential of online learning. The result of teacher survey showed that when asked if they are willing to use blended learning, applying online learning to their physical classes, among teachers who replied, actually 44% responded, yes, I'd like to do that. I'd like to apply online learning or material for physical classes. COVID-19 has triggered unprecedented and unexpected things to all of us, and I believe all of you had or still having a lot of concerns. But Korea believes that our experience can be the starting point to innovate the future education and give an opportunity to resolve digital divide among students. In case of Korea, the foundation of distance learning were active utilization of ICT, but more importantly, policies, cooperations between the public and the private sector, and above all, as I mentioned, teachers' passion, commitment, and hard work to resolve any hurdles that prevent students from learning no matter what, and their efforts to actively sympathize with the students and practice their ideas into action. This would be the foundation to build Korean-style distance learning model, or so-called K-style distance learning model. As we cannot say that technology is high level nor perfect, so we will continuously strive to further develop related technologies through this Korean education model or K-education model. COVID-19 provided us a chance to realize that there is a possibility to innovate education and pursue future education development. That is the most important thing. As local and international communities are struggling to tackle the COVID-19, we will make efforts to strengthen educational cooperation and share information continuously. Korea Education and Research Information Service carries, together with Korean ministries including Ministry of Education, Ministry of Science and ICT, will actively share our experience and information. This concludes my presentation on Korea response to COVID-19 and online classes in Korea and how and what we did so far. I'm sure that you might have a lot of questions. Please let me know. I'll do my best to answer them within my knowledge. Thank you once again for your attention. Thank you. Thank you very much, Director Kim, for your presentation on education policies and online classes in Korea. We heard presentation from all four speakers, and now it is time for Q&A session. I will ask 3 questions to each speaker, and these are the questions that I have gathered. For the time management, I will ask each one of you 1 question first, and then after the first round, I'll pose second question to each speaker, and then we will go to the last third round. The order, I'll pose a question first, start with the Ministry of Science and ICT.
What has Korea done with ICT infrastructure to curb further spread of the COVID-19 is the first question. Okay, let me give you an answer. Since the MERS outbreak, the Korean government revised Infectious Disease Control and Prevention Act. And because of that revision, mobile carriers and credit card companies are required to provide information necessary when asked for epidemiological investigation. And in 2017, we established manuals related to that. And based on this, in May this year, we developed an epidemiological investigation assistance system that utilizes information provided by mobile carriers and credit card companies to identify confirmed cases, whereabouts,
두 번째는 이제
And
휴대폰
next
앱입니다. 휴대폰 앱을
is about mobile application. By using a mobile phone application, those in self-isolation can diagnose themselves on their own, and the result of diagnosis is sent to officers in charge, and the officers can check whether those who in self-isolation stay where designated or not. So this was to reduce workload of officers in charge of monitoring those who in self-isolation and those who coming from other countries. And as the number of entrants from other countries and those who in self-isolation surged, we started operating monitoring call center that utilizes AI so as to enable quick monitoring and improve work productivity. And lastly, to prevent the disease and stop the spread of the disease, mobile carriers have provided local information of confirmed cases to the police and other agencies as well. And also to prevent a possible second wave, and we will keep those systems updated. Thank you very much for your answers. And next, the question is for figure from CGen.
Since the target genes and their diagnostic criteria are different depending on the SARS-CoV-2 molecular diagnostic test kit, isn't there any difficulties in diagnosing for the positive reaction? Well, the target genes or reading standard method gradually changes depending on the status of the gene sequence. And as our goal changes, the target gene also changes. That's how you understand. Initially, when there was only one SARS-CoV-2 genome sequence, the product was developed by targeting the E gene target and sarbecovirus-specific RDRP gene to screen the entire sarbecovirus in relation to SARS-CoV. But now, we have more than 55,000 genome sequence released, and we know the information. So, we can understand the specific SARS-CoV-2 as well as the sequence variation. Therefore, we can carry out oligo design in any kinds of the genome sequence. So not only EGs, but also ORF1A, ORF1AB, RDRP, SH, and we can cover everything. And of course, in the beginning, the screening and confirmatory test kit, when only both shows confirmation, we thought it was a positive. But now, we can understand as long as it has a specific target gene, then immediately we can confirm that this is positive.
Thank you very much for your answer. And next question is CEO Ryu Wang-sik of Institute Pasteur Korea. There is a discussion on COVID-19 virus antibody test. What is the implication of it? Okay, let me give you an answer. If you are infected a virus, infected a disease, then antibodies are produced in your body. So once you are tested positive, and then antibodies will be created, and then you will not be getting infected again. So the more people with antibodies we have, then the more we will be able to spread. Will stop the spread of the virus. So, if we are able to reach herd immunity, then the virus spread will be blocked. Then we likely need at least 70% of the population to be immune to have herd immunity. But it's a long way to go to reach that 70% of herd immunity. Thank you very much for your answer.
Next question goes to Director Jin-Soo Kim of CARIS. As you mentioned, although active preparation was made to resolve digital divide, but was it really practically effective? It seems like there were some issues. Do you believe that there were actually effective results regarding the digital divide? carrying out online classes, many people ask questions about digital divide. There are two things. First, there is an issue of the environment, and second, can we really utilize online learning materials? As I mentioned in my presentation, the foremost priority was the environment, the connections, and digital devices. In case of Korea, internet connection was quite high, the penetration was quite high, and also the communication channel between each municipal and provincial office of education and each school were well established. So any household that request help, the smart devices were provided free of charge. Not only the smart devices that school had, but also the private sector joined in providing the smart devices. It took a week and 2 weeks, a week or 2 weeks, but at home, students and parents, sometimes the students are equipped with quite a bit of the knowledge in using smart devices, but at home, parents need to keep an eye on their students. And as I mentioned, teachers were very active and with a passion, they did a peer-to-peer coaching to tackle any difficulties that they had. That is why, what are the actual effects? Did the students really joined and was able to take part in the online school? And I believe that almost 100% of the students participated in online classes. That's the result, practical result.
Thank you very much, Director Kim, for your answer. And next question is to Director Lee. What kind of efforts are being made in Korea for the development of treatment and vaccine? This is the question. So let me briefly talk about in time order. Since the last February, in the late February this year, for drug repositioning, Korea Research Institute of Chemical Technology, Pasteur, Korea Research Institute of Bioscience and Biotechnology, and relevant agencies set up a consultative body. And since March, Pasteur and CRIT conducted a screening research that verifies drug efficacy at a cell level. And KRIBB and Korea Mouse Phenotyping Center are now developing an animal model that helps verify identify the drug's efficacy. In April, industry, academia, institutes, and hospitals established a pan-government support center for the development of vaccine and treatment for the COVID-19. And also, they created a R&D consultative body to support businesses so that businesses can develop vaccines and treatments. So through the Pan-Government Support Center, Ministry of Science and ICT, Health and Welfare, KCDC, and Food and Drug Safety worked together to provide support for the development of vaccine and treatment in the private sector. And going forward, we will collect research data and provide it in a systematic manner. And also we will enhance support for the development of treatment and vaccine as well. Thank you very much, Director Lee, for your answer. And next question goes to Director Lee from CGEN.
Due to insufficiency of reagent, there are a lot of demand and questions that they'd like to conduct crude PCR. Is it possible? Well, there are two ways. First, extracting nucleic acid. Second, using that, we can conduct a testing on the extracted nucleic acid. But nowadays, the crude PCR is not sufficient, and sometimes molecular diagnostic test is conducted. Well, I believe that using crude PCR is possible. Of course, depending on the types of these specimens and what's the pre-treatment, there could be some differences. Of course, if you consider the sensitivity compared to the one that we directly extract and the one with the other, of course, there could be some differences, but still, I believe that crude PCR can be used. That's all.
예, 소장님 답변 감사드립니다.
Thank you very much for your answer. And next question is going to CEO Lee Wang-sik.
치료제 개발을 언제로 예상하십니까?
When do you expect a treatment will be developed?
현재 코로나19 치료제로 공식적으로 승인받은
And currently, the only officially approved drug for COVID-19 is
에볼라
remdesivir.
치료제로 개발 중.
It was originally developed to treat Ebola virus, but
약물 재창출한
it
것이죠.
was repurposed to treat COVID-19. But it is not as effective as known, so it is not a game changer. And other than remdesivir, Oxford University in the UK released the result of clinical trial of dexamethasone. And dexamethasone showed 30% lower mortality rate, and it is regarded as significant when it comes to statistics. And a number of drugs are under clinical trials, and we will be able to get a treatment at the end of this year. Next question goes to Director Kim.
It seems like there are different kinds of the remote learning, and depending on the teacher's capabilities and also class environment, there could be some differences. What are the ways to overcome such differences? Well, distance learning or online classes, sometimes you have to understand that it's very difficult because we cannot meet each other face to face, and this is something that has never experienced before. Probably never before we have conducted distance learning or online class. Once the government decided that all schools will conduct online learning, the Ministry of Education first created a detailed guidelines giving us instructions how and what to do in regard to the remote classes or online classes. The municipalities and provincial office of education conducted a quick online education training provided to the teachers to enhance their capacities. Although teachers have never had a previous experience of giving online classes, they work hard to carry out online classes. And nationwide efforts were made. In only 3 days, we created a homepage where we create a community based on which we can share our experiences and also exchange our ideas and also the contents. We had already contents, but also more contents were made, and through online classes, we were able to communicate. Students asked questions, teachers gave feedback, and of course, the role of the government is critical. The public sector's role is important. Of course, the private sector provides great content services, but I believe that through this experience, we were able to have a public platform which work as a foundation for everyone, and thanks to that we're able to overcome the difficulties. I guess the major key were active participation and commitment of the teachers.
Thank you very much, Director Kim, for your answer. And we are going to move to the next round. The next question is going to Director Lee. The question is, how Korea has employed ICTs for social distancing? So to respond to the outbreak, we have been utilizing ICTs. In particular, when it comes to social distancing, I'm going to talk about how we have been utilizing ICTs. So regarding publicly distributed masks, a mask is very important in responding to the outbreak. When there is no demand or there is a shortage of masks, our citizens have had appealed so many difficulties. So for convenience of our citizens, we decided to provide information on the sales of publicly distributed masks sold through public platforms, including pharmacies. And this service was provided through a web and app service. And the second, it is almost the same with Director Kim regarding online class. So for online class, we try to create an environment using ICT. So we have been carrying out this project with the Ministry of Education. And the last example is regarding remote work. Because of the outbreak, the remote work has been widely adopted by many companies. So we have seen many remote work solutions. So we started providing information regarding companies that provide remote work solutions and such solutions, specifications, and other information as well. And when it comes to privacy and security and protection, we have been committed to protecting it. So going forward, ICTs will play an important role going forward. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee, for your answer. And the next question goes to Director Lee of CGEN.
Dr. Dave Lee, when can we use CGEN's ICT technology from outside your own company? Currently, it is used for the product development and verification inside CGEN, but in the second half of this year, ICT technology-based product development will be opened to the outside and joint development can be carried out. And when the system is stabilized, as soon as possible, probably early next year, I believe that people outside our company can utilize our own technology.
Thank you very much for your answer. And next question is directed to CEO Ryu Wang-sik.
코로나19 치료제들이 약물 재창출로 발굴되는 것이 대다수입니다.
Most treatments for COVID-19 are identified through drug repositioning. What is the reason for that?
이 답변드리겠습니다.
Okay, let me give you an answer. Usually the development of a new drug takes more than 10 years, but we don't have that long time for the development of a new drug. So that's why we try to identify new uses of pre-approved drugs. So the existing drugs are already proved when it comes to safety. So that's why we use it to shorten the time for the development of a new drug. But these drugs are not engineered to treat the COVID-19, so its efficacy might be lower than we expected, but it could be used as a treatment for that. Thank you very much for your answer.
Next question goes to Director Jin Suk Kim of CARIS. What would be the specific directions for Korean type of remote classes in the future? Based on our experience, government-wise, we have come up with the future directions to develop and innovate Korea's education. Basically, we need three elements. First, the accessibility, expanding the infrastructure so that people can easily access, and secondly, the capacity or competency of how to use the digital technology, not only students but also teachers, parents, and general public. That was proven to be critical. It's extremely important that we need to strengthen the capacity. Third, in the first question, I was asked to answer about the digital divide. And third element is digital divide, how we can overcome, for example, students with disabilities or students from multicultural families. We cannot disregard anyone. No one should be left behind. We need to build an environment where an inclusive environment means everyone can enjoy the online classes. So as a third element, I believe that although these are online classes, we need to come up with a way so that the overall education needs to be further developed.
Thank you very much, Director Kim, for your answer. So with this, we'd like to conclude a Q&A session for pre-received questions. So we are going to take some questions on the live stream, and we are going to give some answers to them. The first question is directed to Director Lee from CGEN.
What do you use to conduct the testing inside the laboratory? Well, for the molecular diagnostic testing, I mentioned that there are two things. First is extractions. For extraction, we need to use equipment or speculum, which is a kit that we use manually. We extract nucleic acid. And second, gene expansion is on the real-time basis. We have to use real-time PCR so that COVID viruses can be expanded and we can actually conduct the testing.
Thank you very much for your answer, Director Lee. And next question goes to Director Kim.
In case of remote classes, how do you evaluate, how do you assess students? In case of the evaluation and also assessment, I think you are talking about testing. Within the Korean environment, we have never done any kind of evaluation or testing or assessment like giving a grade or carrying out tests. We didn't do so. We don't have ways to do that. However, during the past semester, I'm teaching at the universities. It's not a primary, middle, or high school. We are providing university classes, and at the end of the semester, the final exams were given face-to-face. And when the physical school was opened, then the examination and assessment were carried out. I believe that testing or evaluation cannot be done online in most of the cases, in other countries' cases as well. I guess the merits of the online or digital is, for the future, maybe TOEFL, that we are taking a TOEFL test through IBT, internet-based one, and maybe we need to consider that in our online classes as well. So cautiously, Korean government is also approaching the idea of conducting evaluation through IT.
And the last question. And the last question goes to Director Lee from CGen.
COVID-19 viruses, when it arrives to another area, are there any possibilities of mutations or changes? As I have shown before, more than 55,000 of genes were already released. So depending on the time, depending on the regions, definitely gene mutation can occur continuously. We are able to confirm that. Among that, there are a couple of important gene mutations and a couple of papers were already written. Of course, we don't have sufficient clinical evidence whether these gene mutations give a critical influence to the disease or what kind of influence it can give to the future cure treatment. We need to focus more of our energy and efforts. But gene mutation constantly happens. Therefore, vaccine development or cure treatment development, we need to consider various elements.
So with this, we'd like to conclude today's webinar. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining today.